Okay, let's name the notes on the fretboard. So you've probably seen your favorite guitar player just dancing all around the guitar neck, and you're like, how in heaven's name do they know where to go? They must have all those notes memorized, right? Well, kind of and kind of not, and it's more leans on kind of not. As guitar players, we're not thinking of the names of these notes all the time. In fact, rarely are we thinking of the names of the notes. We're more thinking in patterns, and we're really patterns, certain forms that we've learned over time, that you're going to learn in this course as well. And when asked, hey, what is the name of this fret or whatever, what is the name of this string at this fret, then most guitar players, if they've been playing for a bit, can do that, but they're utilizing a couple of techniques that we're going to learn right here, okay? They really don't have it memorized. It would be equivalent to saying, you know, can you count 1 to 1,000,000? Or if you can't count to 1,000,000, can you count 1 to 1,000? You know, and you'd probably say, yes, I can do that. Well, have you ever done it before? How do you know that you can do it? Well, because you're using certain techniques. We know that the decimal, you know, the zero moves over every time, and that there's only 9 digits, right? Or 10, I guess, including the 0. And we can easily count to, you know, 1,000,000 or 1,000,000,000 or 1,000,000,000,000. But we haven't done that before. So in the same way, this is how guitar players think about the guitar neck. Okay, and it's really easy. There's really only a couple things that you need to know. Really 2 or 3 things here. And you'll want to make sure that you have the PDF that's attached to this video for that information. Okay. Now, first thing we need to know is we need to know the names of the open strings, which goes like this. And when we mean an open string, we mean we're plucking the string and we don't have our fingers on it, okay? We have our pick on it, but we're not fretting anything, okay? So the names of the open strings, and this is as they should be tuned as well, that's why we name them these, is it goes like this. It goes E, A, D, G, B, and E. Okay? E, A, D, G, B, E. E, A, D, G, B, E. A lot of folks will try to come up with some way to remember that. And the way I always did it with my students was, Eddie ate dynamite, goodbye Eddie. Right? Don't eat dynamite, kids. Right? Eddie ate dynamite, goodbye Eddie. Whatever little mnemonic you need to remember that, then do that. You can use mine, you can use another one, doesn't matter. Eddie ate dynamite, goodbye Eddie. So the first letter of each one of those would represent that string. Okay? Makes sense. So we got that. Now, the other 2 things that we need to know is that the musical alphabet goes from A to G. Just like the regular alphabet goes from A to Z, the musical alphabet goes from A to G. So if you were looking at musical notation or looking at chords, that sort of thing, you're never going to see an H note or an H chord or anything past G. It stops at G and then it starts over again. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Does this on the piano, does this on the guitar, does this on every musical instrument. Just about every musical instrument. Those that only have 1 octave, the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, that would be 1 octave, then obviously you're not going to have repeats, you just have the 1. But most musical instruments do repeat. So now that we know that, A through G, then we only need to know one other piece of information, and that is that every note has a sharp except for B and E. Now, if you remember earlier, we said a sharp is when we take a note and we raise it, right? Well, in this case here, we can name a note something sharp, like A sharp or C sharp. And that's an adjective in this case here, because we are even though we're using it before the word, it's describing the A. It's a type of A. It's a sharped A. Okay, and that's another way we could say a sharped A, but we usually will say A sharp. Okay, so every note has a sharp except for B and E. All right, so all the other notes do. I always tell my students, if they want to remember this, think about the Beatles song, Let It Be, B-E. I don't know. It's a weird, my little weird analogy, but it works, okay? So B and E don't have a sharp, right? So if we were going through the alphabet, let's do this, okay? Remember, A through G and B and E don't have a sharp. So our first letter in the alphabet is what? A, right? We said every note has a sharp except for B and E. So does A have a sharp? Yes. So we have A sharp. The next letter in the alphabet is B, right? And sing it if you need to. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I do it all the time. So B is our next note. Does it have a sharp? Right? B and E don't, right? So the next note would be A, C. Okay? No sharps for the B. So does C have a sharp? Yes. So C sharp. It's an actual note. We need to say it. So we have A sharp, B, C, C sharp. What's after C? D. Does D have a sharp? Yes. D sharp. So you want to say D sharp. Don't just say sharp. Just say D sharp because we need to know what that note is. And D sharp is the note, not sharp. Okay? So we have D sharp. What's the next note? A, B, C, D, E. Right? Does E have a sharp? No. Correct. So we have to go straight to F. Does F have a sharp? Yeah. F sharp. Right? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Does G have a sharp? Yep. G sharp. So we have 12 notes. That's what we call our chromatic scale. That's all the notes. Chroma meaning color. So you can think about it like the rainbow. If we were looking at a rainbow, we'd have red, orange, yellow, blue, indigo, or Roy G. Biv. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, right? Those are all our colors. But in between there, we have these different hues, and we can think about the chromatic scale as that. It's including all the colors and all the hues in between it. Later on, you're going to see we're not going to use all those notes when we're playing in a particular key. We're only going to use some of them. Okay, so now without further ado, let's do this on the fretboard, okay? And you want to make sure that you look at the PDF that's attached to this video. I have two of them. One of them, it will cover what I just spoke about. And then there's also a blank fretboard, which what I want you to do with that is to be able to write them in with a pencil or a pen. Preferably a pencil because you can erase if you make a mistake. And you're going to do this on paper, and it's really going to help. Again, once you do this, it's going to stay in your mind, but you do have to really concentrate. Don't try to take a shortcut. It's never a shortcut on the guitar, okay? Always do the work, and then you're not going to forget it, I promise, if you just stick to this, okay? All right, so we're going to start the alphabet, or we're going to start the string by its name. So in the case of an E string, we would start at E, but we're going to start at A just to make this simple. So where's our A string? Remember, Eddie ate dynamite, goodbye Eddie. So Eddie ate. Ate starts with an A, then that's an A string. So we're going to pluck the A. And I've seen this happen all the time, so make sure you don't do it. The name of the string is an A, so our first note is an A. You don't put your finger on the strings yet, okay? The open note is the A, okay? Now when we put our finger down, now we're changing the pitch. We're going up a half step, or 1 fret, okay? And that note would be 1 note above an A, it'd be sharped, so it's an A sharp, okay? Now we're gonna move through the alphabet just like we did before, A through G, and B and E don't have a sharp. Everybody else does. So we have A sharp. What's the next letter in the alphabet? B. Does it have a sharp? No. So we have a C. C have a sharp? Yep. A, B, C, D. Does D have a sharp? Yeah. A, B, C, D, E. Is our next note? Does E have a sharp? No. Trying to trick you there. So it goes straight to F, right? Does F have a sharp? Yes. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Does G have a sharp? You bet it does. And then last note is our A again. And that starts the whole sequence over again. So we could have just stopped at G sharp, but I wanted to show you something pretty cool here. When we get to this A, that's the same as this A, except it's one octave higher. So when we call the whole spectrum, the whole musical spectrum, if we go from one note to the next note, to the next note of the same name, that's called an octave, okay? And later on you're going to see where that makes sense. Oct meaning 8. I know there's 12 notes in between here, but if we were playing a scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, that would be that's where we get the name from. We're not playing all the individual hues of the rainbow here, all the individual notes. If we were playing this scale, an A major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Okay. So that's why we call that the octave. And when you're writing this out on your paper or you're doing this by hand on your guitar, which you really should be doing both, when you come to the 12th fret, that's the one that typically when you're looking down at the guitar, it's either going to have 2 dots right here on the front or right here on the side, 2 dots, okay? And those 2 dots, remember I said that earlier, I said that means that the octave is starting over again, okay? And that's one thing that we do want to keep cognizant of. And what we could do with that is like if we were to play a lick, like if I wanted to play that same lick but up an octave, I could play it just right there, okay? What's happening vibrationally, or the physics of sound, is if this note right here is vibrating at, say, 110 cycles per second, which I'm pretty sure that A is 110 cycles per second, then right here at the 12th fret, it's vibrating exactly twice as much, so 220 vibrations per second. And then if we went up another octave, that'd be 440 cycles per second. Another octave, 880 cycles per second, right? So a little bit of math can come in here if we would like to use that, right? Okay, let's do one more, and then I want you to do the rest on your own, the rest of the strings. So let's do the E string here. So we're going to pluck the E. We know that's E because it's Eddie, 8 Dynamite, Goodbye Eddie, so that's Eddie, that's E. So here's our E. Does E have a sharp? No. So F, F sharp, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. G has a sharp. What happens here? We start over again, right? So G sharp, what's after G? A, right? Starts over again. Now notice this A on the 5th fret is the same as this A on the open string, the open A string. So those 2 notes are in unison together, okay? We'll learn more about that later on when we're tuning our guitar. So here's our A. Does A have a sharp? Yes. Next note, A, B. There's our B. Does B have a sharp? No, so C. C sharp. D. D sharp. And look, here we are at the 12th fret, back at our E. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to do this with all 6 strings. I want you to do it on your guitar, but first I want you to do it with the paper, the blank PDF that I provided for you. If you do that, you're really going to be able to see there. If you need to put a little cheat on the side, say B and E don't have a sharp and the musical alphabet goes from A to G, that's fine. Try not to look at it, use it if you need it, but in a short while you're going to remember it, okay? If you use it, it will become part of you. If you don't use it and you're constantly looking at the notes, then you're not going to memorize it, okay? A small analogy here. Many years ago I learned how to touch type, where you don't look at the keyboard but you can type. I did that in high school. And then many years later in jobs, in college, that sort of thing, is I started looking at the keyboard again. And I ended up always having to look at the keyboard. And then when I got my first real job many years ago, I needed to do a lot of typing, a lot of reports and that sort of thing. And I ended up getting very frustrated because I kept looking at my hands and it's like, gosh, I went through all the training. Why am I looking at my hands? And I realized that it was because I was looking at my hands. Sounds simple, but what happens is I had to go home and I said, I'm not going to look at my hands. I'm going to type a document. And what I did is I looked at a piece of paper and just started typing and started searching and then I would look at the screen and yeah, I was right. Or maybe I was wrong and I would not look at my hands, but I would figure I'd just type something and be like, okay, that's right. And then I would practice that and it came back to me in no time flat. So with all that being said, if you use it, you're gonna be fine. If you don't use it, you lose it, right? So use the PDF there. That's gonna be part of your homework. Then do it by hand on the guitar on all 6 strings, probably at least 2 times through, either 1 on paper, 1 on the guitar, or 2 on paper, 2 on the guitar, 1 on the paper, 2 on the guitar. Doesn't matter. Do it at least 2 times all the way through all 6 strings, and I promise you, you're gonna get it and you're not gonna forget it. And there's a ton of guitar players that don't know this, so do it. It's gonna make you a much better player. Slow and steady wins the race, okay? Don't get overwhelmed. If this is too much for you, stop at this video, do it, give yourself a break, come back tomorrow and keep watching. All right, let's keep going.